Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. My name is Shalaya Yazdi. I'm a public health practitioner and a Master's of Medical Health Science student at Touro University. Since the pandemic began, people around the world face a shift from their normal routines, such as limitations from school, work, gym, centers of worship, or spending time with friends and family. Such limitations can make it difficult to balance positivity, productivity, and self-care. So my mentor, Dr. Jay Shubrick, and I came together to create this webinar series to share wellness tools with our community. During our first week, we had the pleasure of learning about how food can contribute to our wellness and how certain foods can mitigate the onset of inflammation. Last week, we discussed how to integrate movement and learned about various stress management techniques. We also learned how we could optimize our mind, body, and spirit, and how to find balance between the three and why it makes a difference in our overall well-being. The third week began with a conversation about the chronic conditions and reducing stigma. Tomorrow and Thursday, we're going to talk about prevention and mental health awareness. Join us before Thanksgiving, where we're going to talk about making the best of the 2020 holiday season. Our last session on November 30th will incorporate all that we've learned throughout the month of November, and we will discuss how we can make sustainable adjustments to our habits given such busy schedules. All webinars are recorded and posted on our website at tu.edu/mobec/zoom into wellness. I would like to introduce Maya Ramsey, a community member who graduated from Touro University School of Public Health program, and Roberta Flannel. And I'd also like to introduce Gabriela Macedo, a Master's of Medical Health Science student at Touro University. I'm passionate about contributing to creating a healthier community and hope this series brings some positivity, productivity, and self-care that could help optimize your life throughout this difficult time. Let's zoom into wellness with Maya Ramsey, Roberta Flannel, and Gabriela Macedo.
Thank you so much, Shalaya and Dr. Shubrick, once again for having us here tonight and discussing raising awareness and reducing the stigma of chronic conditions. It's such an important topic to talk about as a community, and we figured that it would, instead of just saying facts and figures of what chronic conditions are and what stigma is, we thought there's no better way than to share a community member's story and real life experiences. So we will be talking about preventing and managing chronic conditions later this week, so please join us for that. But for today, let's just talk to one of our community members, Roberta Flannel, who will share her story with us and her experiences. So go ahead, Roberta, and unmute yourself.
Oh,
perfect. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. And throughout, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to use the Q&A, and Gabriela is going to field those questions for us. So awesome. Thank you. So Roberta, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. Thank you, Maya. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Roberta is a community member. She lives in Sassoon City, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. So how long have you lived in Solano County?
In Solano County, practically all my life. I grew up in Vallejo, and I was born in Sacramento, and my dad started working on Mare Island, and that's how we came to Vallejo. And then the last 20 years I've been in Sassoon.
Sassoon, awesome. So you've been around for a while. You've seen Solano County change over the years.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's just jump right into having you share a little bit of your health journey with us.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Well, my health journey actually began, I believe, in 5th grade. That was the first time that I was actually the doctor was concerned about diabetes. When I was in the 5th grade, I remember I had to take the test, and that's how I found out that my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, had diabetes. So my father was a little concerned, but apparently everything turned out okay. The test came back okay. And if you fast forward like 40 years, here I am. I always had annual checkups, always, every year, just like clockwork. Just when school started, you know it was time to have your physical. So every year I would have my my checkup. And one particular year in 2013, I had the best doctor. I went for my annual checkup, and I sat on the edge of the bed and I said, I said, hi, doctor. And she said, oh, hi, how are you doing? And this is in 13. And she was telling me that my glucose numbers were starting to elevate. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, well, I want you to start watching what you eat, and you probably need to get a little bit more exercise. And at this time, I was really doing McDonald's like 4 times a week for lunch, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay. And we said our goodbyes and see you next year. And I went on about my business, and I continued my habit at McDonald's. And then in 2014, I had my annual checkup, and she came in, hi, how are you doing? But she looked a little concerned. And she said, I want you to start tracking your glucose numbers. And I said, oh, okay, because she said, your numbers are starting to elevate. This is the second time in the 2 years. And so I said, oh, okay. And again, she said, I need you to start watching what you're eating and probably getting a little bit more exercise. And so I said, oh, okay. And so I jumped off the bed, and probably for a week, I stopped going to McDonald's. And then maybe a week later, I was back in the drive-through where when the employee says hi, like they really know you, you know something's wrong.
Like, same order?
So, yeah, same order. And so the third year, this would have been in 2015, my doctor had retired. And I always say there was a new sheriff in town, because this particular doctor came in, and I was on the edge of the bed just waiting for my doctor, you know, just ask me how I was doing. And this particular doctor came in, and she whipped out a prescription pad. And this is my vision, this is my perception of what happened. She whipped out that prescription pad so quickly and said, your A1C is 6.6. And I just sat up and I said, oh, and she immediately said, I'm going to put you on 3 different types of meds. And I was a little concerned. I'm already taking medicine for high blood pressure. So I was a little concerned, and I just didn't want to take the meds for the simple reason I had always heard, once you get on the medicine, you can never get off. So that was the first thing that went through my head. And then the second thing was, she wanted to put me on lisinopril, which I had been taking previously, and I had a allergic reaction to it. And I just thought, this doesn't feel right. I'm not going to do this. And I asked her, just can I please have 6 months just to try to get these numbers down? And, you know, I'll watch my diet, I'll watch what I eat, I'll get a little exercise, what I have been told like years in a row. And I think she probably just didn't believe me. And she immediately told me, well, look, if something happens to you, I'm responsible. So I have people that I have to answer to. So I said, okay, I get it, but I would prefer to just try to do this on my own. And so we parted. We were both upset. So we parted our ways. And I actually, that particular day, I came home, put on a pair of shorts, and I took a long walk. And I told myself, now I have to walk for my life, because all I could visualize is these meds on my counter that I had to take. And I thought, oh man, I don't want to be that person. So lo and behold, I lost a little bit of weight. 6 months later, I believe it was, I lost, I'm going to say 20, I believe it was. And I went back to my doctor, and she still was not happy with my numbers. So at this point, I believe they had come down like 2 points, from 6.6 to 6.4. But I knew something was happening because they were going down. My numbers were going down. I knew I was doing something right. But, and I have to just tell you this, and I'm going to just insert the DPP, Diabetes Prevention Program, into this, because when I got my diagnosis, maybe 2 weeks later, my niece, I had spoke with my niece, and my niece brought this flyer about the diabetes prevention program. And it was about helping people either lessen their medication or not have to take medication, but doing a lifestyle change. And so lo and behold, that came just like, it just dropped out of the sky. And so it was the best news. So I became one of the first members of the cohorts in Vallejo at Kyle's Temple. And what I found out that to be is I had, excuse me, I had the doctor giving me these instructions about, you have to watch what you're eating, which I'm not quite sure what that meant. And you have to get more exercise. Well, I knew I could get out and walk, but I didn't know how much more exercise. I didn't really get specific instructions, or there was no path for me to take. I was just given those particular instructions. And so lo and behold, the the DPP program came along, and it was almost like it just closed that circle, because it taught me how to really watch my weight and watch what I eat and read labels, and know that I need 150 minutes of exercise. So that program just kind of enclosed everything for me. And I ended up doing pretty well for the most part. I still know that I need that 150 minutes of exercise. So I still try to hit those goals, and I still try to watch what I eat. And I think more so than anything, I really learned, you really have to read your labels. You have to read your labels. So that was pretty much my journey. I just wanted to take control of all of this. And I must say, I want to be the first to say that if I had the knowledge base that I have right now, I would have not disputed anything with the doctor. But my concern would be, the doctor would have given me a pill, and would I've had the motivation to do what I did by taking a pill? Because the pill, we know, is like only half the problem. I'm sorry, only half of the solution. So you still have to maintain a proper diet and exercise. So it was all a blessing in disguise. And now I must say, the doctor that I'm seeing right now is just thrilled. She's just thrilled that I'm doing it without medication. Sorry.
No problem. So you talked about back in the 5th grade, that was your first kind of experience. And that one of your fears was not getting on medication. You just didn't want to be stuck on it. Right. I'm interested to know if there was conversations in your household growing up about diabetes, or, what did you know as a child about diabetes or as you were growing up?
Actually, I knew very, very little. I knew that when I would go see my grandmother in Arizona, she had to eat early in the evening. That much I remember. And then I had an aunt, and I remember this specifically. We were at the table when she was stirring a cup of tea, and I asked her, well, why don't you put sugar in your tea? And she said, because I have to use honey, because my diabetes, it'll raise my sugar. And every now and then I would hear my father say my grandmother had diabetes, but it was never an open conversation about what diabetes does or anything. It was almost mute, if you will.
And do you think that at all contributed to any of your lifestyle choices or anything along those lines? Or?
Yes, because I think the strange thing is, if you can see the effects of diabetes, that would probably contribute a lot to a household and how you feed your family. Whereas we knew about it, but we didn't see the effects till later in life, or with myself, until I actually had to experience it. But other than that, it was like a mute kind of conversation.
And so as you got the news that your numbers were going up, What were some of the things that you believed about diabetes or prediabetes?
In the beginning, the first 2 years,
Yeah.
not much. I have to be honest with you, not much. And now that I think about it, I don't even know that I really gave it a lot of thought. I just knew because the doctor said you have to watch what you eat and you're going to have to get more exercise. And probably, and I'll be honest with you, that the first time I was told by the doctor, I always say I was advised the first year. And I did not give it a second thought. And then the second year, when she wanted me to actually track my glucose readings, I think I stayed with it like 2 weeks, and that was about it. But I just didn't give it any thought until I call it backed up against the wall, where I had to come out fighting because my only choice was either to take all that medicine or you better do something and do something quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stigma
Excuse me, Matt. Quick question
associated
before we
with
move forward.
diabetes or you felt.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your whole question, Maya.
Sure. Sorry, my internet. Just what are some of the stigmas that you believed?
Well, strangely enough, the stigmas that I believe is what I saw. And that's the only thing that I can truly identify with. And what I saw is my grandmother went blind and still not really understanding what diabetes is doing to your body. So I saw my grandmother, she lost her vision. I would go into convalescent homes. My father's girlfriend worked in a convalescent home. And so I would see people with their amputees. I would see that. And the stigma for me was actually physical. It was never mental what to do. It was almost like the ending product of this kind of condition, if you will. But I just coming up until it actually came face to face with me, that was my stigma. And please understand, I'm not generalizing this, but for me, when someone had diabetes, it was a older woman, African American, overweight, sedentary, because that's what I saw. That was my stigma in terms of diabetes, because I didn't see Caucasian people with diabetes. I didn't even hear, I didn't hear about it. But what I can only speak on what I saw and kind of interpret, if you will.
Do you have any insight on to what other stigmas may be out there about any chronic conditions, but specifically diabetes or prediabetes, beyond now that you've lived with this and overcome a lot of it? What have you learned from talking to other people participating in the DPP classes?
I believe the biggest stigma that, if I recall, is diabetes is something about what you can't do. And you can't have the carbs, and you can't, you have to have a particular diet. So I believe that's the biggest stigma that I come across, even in the DPP class, how we learn how to eat. And moderation is huge. It's absolutely huge. So other than the physical effects of diabetes, it's diabetes is just a big can't, what you can't do, what you can't have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you feel like now that you have participated, we'll talk more about DPP a little bit later, but that you have participated in DPP and you've been a coach of DPP, that you have learned some things that you wish that you would have known beyond the eating right and the nutrition labels? What are some things that you would like to share with people?
You know, we take our health for granted. I mean, we don't appreciate our health nearly enough. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we don't really take our health seriously until something happens, as opposed to, I was just thinking about this today. If I were to have grandbabies and I could teach them how to, you know, when you eat fruits and vegetables and you eat food, good food for your body, you can kick balls and you can throw balls and you can be strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more so than anything, that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
That's huge to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have now, I know you have to start your babies early.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know that you obviously learned how to do some behavioral changes, but did you learn anything about like what diabetes actually does to your body or anything along those lines?
Yes. So this was just such an eye opener. It was such a wonderful presentation Kirby Brooks gave, and I don't even know why we gave this presentation, but I assume Kirby and I were just talking about it, and I asked her to come and give the presentation. But you know, all the weeks that we're in class and we're talking about portion control and we're talking about um, you know, exercising, you can almost forget what you're fighting for.
Mm.
And you think, because you come to class and you get on that scale and you think you're fighting to get that weight down, but it's so much more than that, so much more than that. And Kirby's presentation demonstrated what's really happening in your veins and with your heart, and why people lose their vision, and why the toes are cut off, and then when that doesn't heal, and then the leg is cut off. So and those internal lessons were huge, and I never will forget the day that she did that presentation. We all just kind of walked out of the room with our eyes kind of glazed over, and you know, and I felt really bad in a way, because the next class I told them, you know, we didn't do that to scare you, but it's almost like you have to understand what we're really keeping our eye on. What's our real prize in this thing? It's about keeping a healthy heart. It's about keeping your arteries clear. It's about, you know what I mean? So it's about when you get sick, you don't fall from the complications of diabetes. That's what we're really fighting for. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I would love to be down in weight, but for me personally, the main thing for me is that my numbers are coming down. I want to make sure when I jump on that table in my doctor's office, my blood pressure is good. They're happy with my blood pressure. My A1C is down. My cholesterol is down. And then I know, okay, I'm doing something right. So now then I can start working on the weight part, which is, I guess it all comes together. But for me, I just really want to know that my numbers are good.
Yeah. Some like checkpoints for yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I know this about you. I've had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last few months, that sharing your story is something that's really important to you. And why is that?
You know, I would have loved to have someone tell me their story when the last time I jumped off that doctor's table and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I knew I had to move, but I just didn't know what to do. And so it fills my heart to just know that I can help someone if I can answer a question about something on a label and a hidden sugar in a particular product. So however I can help from my experience, I'm all for it. It's almost like, as a mother, you don't want your babies to have to go through what, and you don't want them have to go through unnecessary heartache, so to speak. And so if I can get my story out there and they see Roberta out there riding that bike or what, for whatever reason, to stay healthy, let's stay healthy. And the way I look at this, I've worked a long time and I have about 10 more years to work. And I always tell myself, I don't want to get to the point where I'm retired and I'm in a wheelchair, or, you know what I mean? And I can't be the best that I can be when I'm that age. And life is your kind of bowl of cherries.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things that you are currently doing, like during this pandemic, to keep yourself going?
Well, actually, my neighbor and I, we get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, this morning we walked, but a lot of times we ride our bikes for about, I think it's about 4 miles. We ride about 4 miles, probably 3 to 4 times a week, and or we'll walk. We'll walk, which I love walking. And I even love just getting out walking by myself, because it's kind of like a cleansing time for me, where if I need to say, okay, maybe I wasn't so nice to that person, that, I can do it's my confessional,
Sure.
if you will. So, but when the pandemic first started, who knew what to do?
Right.
Who knew what to do? We just stayed in the house and ate. I said, oh my God, we're going to roll right on out of this house. And then as things eased up, it's like, yeah, wear your mask, we have our, because it's so early in the morning, put your gloves on and just go for it, because we don't really have a choice. You know what I mean? Or either put an exercise tape on in the house and do something. But, and I just want to say this, I find it this is ironic to me, is that we have all this time. Whereas before the pandemic, it was like, how do I make time to get out and exercise? And yeah, you have nothing but time now. So you might as well make the best of this time, because hopefully we'll never have this time again. But I just find that really ironic that we're not exercising like we should, but we have the time.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
We're so complicated.
Yeah.
And so you're currently working in the office, correct? Or going into the office?
I am. I'm currently in the office. Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything that you do at work? Like, do you talk to anybody at work about health and fitness? Do you get out and move? Like, what's your experience with the people that you spend the most time with during the day?
First of all, I love the people that I work with, my 2 bosses, and we're always talking about something, but, and we always talk about fitness, the stuff that I actually was doing before the pandemic hit. I would walk like 3 miles on my lunch, and it was kind of comical because when I was in our main building, there would be employees that would like to walk with me. And I would tell them, look, I'm out to walk. I got to get to a certain point and get back on my lunchtime. So I don't have time to talk. But I think we're pretty conscientious of what comes in the office now in terms of snacks and the sort. But yeah.
Do you have anybody either in your office or in your family or friends that have diabetes or pre-diabetes, or you've seen them go through their own journey?
I have. I saw one person go through a heartbreaking journey, and it was really heartbreaking because you see that when people have their legs amputated, you see that, right? But you don't see that transition. And I got the opportunity, I don't know if you want to call it opportunity, but I got an opportunity to see that. And it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. And I'll tell you why, because it was fearful. it was like, it was just fearful to see. And like I said, I saw the first part where I think there was nerve damage, I believe, and then a toe went, and then a leg went, and then so I got the opportunity to see that, and it's an eye opener.
Yeah.
It's an eye opener, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that it changed you a little bit seeing that? Maybe made you more motivated, or
I'm pretty motivated now for the most part. For the most part, I'm pretty motivated, and I feel for the other person, because for so many years, you know, I was really lucky because, like I always say, the doctor advised me, she recommended, and then boom, I got pushed into a corner. Where this other person, I believe it took years to get to that point. And you know, I don't know, the only thing I can say, it was just heartbreaking that if I tell you something and I tell you again and I tell you again and you don't do anything about it, it was just heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a journey that we see. Like you said, you may see someone with a leg that has been amputated or a toe, but that journey can be pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, real eye. And it's almost like I just want to look and you know, in your head, I think I'm kind of selfish, because it's just like, God, I just prayed, just let me have a sound mind to keep focused and to keep motivated, and just so that doesn't happen. Because who knows? I mean, it could very well could happen. I could end up on medication, but you know what? I'm not going down easy. Yeah, so, that's for sure.
Good. Fighter.
We actually have a question from the audience, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So Mario asks, how often do you think about your diabetes? Every day, twice a day, every hour, or how do you deal with the stress?
For my diabetes, you better think about it all the time. But I think probably I can say when I know I'm eating something that I'm not supposed to be eating, or if I eat more than I'm supposed to be eating, I think about it. But you know, that's a good question, because now when I see, you know, their commercials where Jack in the Box has this big burger with onions and cheese, and you know, or what's another one? Maybe Sonic has a milkshake with chocolate and caramel, and it's just like, oh my God, oh, I could just feel the sugar like thickening in my blood. But yeah, I try to keep that at the forefront. You know, even every time when I'm making dinner, am I putting vegetables in my dinner? Am I baking my food? Am I, you know, and if I may tell you a quick story, you know, some mornings it's really hard getting up, at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting out there in that cold, riding that bike, right? And I would always tell my neighbor, if there were $100,000 around that corner and you had the opportunity to get it, but someone would say, okay, you got to get up and get yourself together and ride around the corner to get that money, you would go in a heartbeat. I mean, in a heartbeat. But yet our health is priceless. You can't put a monetary value on good health. And yet I have to struggle, but I know this is what I have to do. I have to keep moving, because my body does better when I'm moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, Gabrielle, was there any other questions from the audience right now?
Yeah, there were a few. There is one just curious about what your diet is like, and if there's certain foods you avoid, or like what desserts you enjoy to go to.
Well, one food that I have to avoid is gluten products. So I can't have gluten products, but I do have the rice products. And
why do you avoid gluten?
I have an allergy. I have been diagnosed with it.
Okay.
Let's see. What do I really avoid? You know, I think this is kind of like the beauty of managing your diabetes, because I don't know of anything that I really avoid, but I do know that you can't have a lot of something. So that's for sure. And I just urge everyone that's even kind of in this circle that don't put yourself in a box where you can't, what you can't have or what you can't, you're avoiding, because sometimes that can be your biggest mistake. And I'll give you an example. Piece of chocolate cake. If you're craving that piece of chocolate cake and you know you've been craving it all week, I would say go maybe cut that piece of chocolate cake in half and have it and enjoy it and move on. Because one great person said, flexibility, without flexibility, it can be failure. So I don't know that I avoid a lot of foods other than the foods that I'm allergic to. It's just moderation. It's just moderation.
Absolutely. And I think that's key to kind of what you were saying earlier, that sometimes people believe that you have to, all the can'ts, you can't have this, you can't do that. And really it's more about just kind of moderation and changing things. And I'm happy to hear that you say that you don't absolutely avoid certain things, because that just sometimes doesn't feel sustainable.
Right. Right, absolutely. I think it's like you're a glutton for punishment, and after a while, it's just like once you get a hold of that particular food that you've been craving, you might do real damage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We have a few more questions along the same topic for now.
Okay.
Someone was asking more about your exercise and how much you exercise per week, and if that was hard to work up or if you were always active prior.
So I'm going to go back to when I was first diagnosed and I jumped off that table and ran home and and put on the shorts and started walking. I've always loved to exercise. I've always loved to walk. And so what I did, I started walking. Now we're going back to 2015. I started walking in the evening. And then what happened is the time changed. So I couldn't walk in the evening. So I had to start walking on my lunch. But what I started doing is making little goals for myself. And I thought, well, if I can make it to that particular, let's just say Rayleigh's and back, then if I walked a little bit faster, I could make it around the corner. And so I actually, from 15, I have built up the amount of exercise. Now, granted, with the pandemic, I slid. I often say I fell off the wagon, rolled down the hill, around the corner. So I am trying to build back up, but I'm doing pretty good, because we go out 4 mornings. We go out 4 mornings a week. And we do about 50 minutes, 3 days a week. And then on Saturday mornings, we ride for about an hour and a half. And our goal is we don't want to stop riding. So we ride, I mean, there's 2 stops where we have to make to cross the highway. I think it is 2. But other than that, our goal is we just want to keep moving for an hour and a half. So, so the answer to the question is, yeah, I did work up to it. But I learned to love exercise, because in the end, I know what it's doing for my body. I know what it's doing for my heart and my kidneys.
And did like anybody in your family exercise, or did you or move or walk or anything?
So actually, I'll tell you, my maternal grandmother, when she would keep us, she would make us walk. I lived in Beverly Hills, in Vallejo, in Beverly Hills. And I remember she would make us walk these hills before we had to take our nap. So I remember walking, and that particular grandmother, she walked, and walking was her mode of transportation, actually. And my mom walked, and she was like 70-some years old, and it was nothing for her to get out to walk to church. Was probably, I'm going to say, at least 2 or 3 miles she would walk. And then I had a sister that when she was much younger, she ran track, and man, she could run. And to this day, I'm so sorry she didn't keep it up, because she was so good. She was fast. And but she's really fighting with her fighting with her weight, but she does exercise, and I'm pretty sure that's about it when it comes to the siblings that I know of.
Gabrielle, are there any other questions right now?
There's one just questioning about the pre-diabetes and diabetes range for the A1C. So the question was, has the interval changed since then? And I believe the answer is that now the pre-diabetic range is 5.7 to 6.4%, versus as a diabetic, your A1C range is greater than 6.5%.
I can only speak for me personally, but mine runs right about 6.2 right now, which is not, it could be better. But right now I'm not taking any medication, and that's what it's running. But may I just say, I want to tell you a funny story about that, because when I started tracking my my glucose, and my range, I believe before meals, was 70 to 130. That was before meals. And so I was tracking my blood, and lo and behold, my range was like, I was coming up at like 129, 127, right? But I was in the range, right? And no one said, they just gave me a range, 70 to 130. But I didn't understand until later on, yeah, but you're at the high end of that range. So you still have to work at getting those numbers down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, when a doctor comes back with blood tests and you don't know what it is, it's very easy to ignore it. And you talked about how the diabetes prevention class kind of bridged that gap of, okay, I know I'm supposed to do this, but how am I supposed to do this? So can you talk briefly about the DPP program and how you became a coach?
Yes, actually, I love this program, and I still go back to the fundamentals of this program to today. So I did well as a participant with the first one, and but I enjoyed the class because I was constantly learning. People would bring in yogurt for breakfast, and we'd have to look at the labels and make sure that yogurt, because yogurt can be deceiving, that the sugar content wasn't too high. And so I really enjoyed that class. And then I was asked by Dr. Shoebrook if I would like to facilitate a class. And I thought, well, I don't really know, but I'm going to try, because I knew I enjoyed the other class. And I just felt, oh, I can make this my own, so to speak, and so I've totally enjoyed it. And the best thing about it is it makes me a better person in terms of when we go over the material. It's just like a good refresher course. It's it keeps me on the up and up to actually facilitate the class. And then I really love the master training part of teaching others how to facilitate their own class. And it's funny because people are funny, but they're all the same, yet you always have that one particular participant that doesn't quite want to go along with everything, but yet they're there every single week.
Absolutely. Gabrielle, I saw you went on mute. Did you have another question?
Yeah, it's actually from Dr. Schubert himself. He asked, Roberta, it sounds like your exposure to diabetes was very scary before you had the condition, but it looks like you have shown it to be controlled and you're doing it without medicine. Do people ask you how you do it?
You know what, strangely enough, they don't ask me how I do it, but I sure volunteer that information. I let them know, because for me, it's just breathtaking to know that for right now, I'm not taking any medication. I'm just trying to, you just do it day by day. And it was very scary, because even when you're you know, you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to exercise, and but you have that kind of secondary thing in terms of, this is a medical condition that I'm working through. It's not just losing weight or, you know, or changing my dietary habits. But and I, you know, I think people see how I'm doing it. They see me getting out, you know, riding my bike and or walking, or yeah. So no, I don't get a lot of people asking, but I sure do volunteer it. That's for sure.
I love that. And I think that's just so important, and why I think that having the conversation that we had today and you sharing your story kind of helps us have those hard conversations and talk about some of the things that can happen, and also that you can change things in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
The world's going to shut down and it's going to force you inside.
Mm-hmm.
But having this open dialogue and raising the awareness of just having these conversations is so important. And, you know, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Maya.
One story of our amazing Solano County. And I hope that this invites a lot of people to talk to each other.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Yeah, and I wear my shirt. I'm going to wear my shirt proudly. So maybe I can strike a conversation up with someone.
Can you stand up so we can see the shirt?
Oh, okay. I have one short, so I'm only going to stand up. Let's see. Can you see it?
Diabetes awareness.
Yeah. And we got the symbol.
Woo! Yeah, so just a little spiel about that shirt. This last Saturday, a group of Solano County members, the SODAF group, which is the Solano County Diabetes Advisory Forum, they all went out to the Saturday market, and we spread some information about diabetes, what Touro has to offer. It was an incredible event, and Saturday was actually International World Diabetes Day, and that blue symbol is the international symbol. So that's what that's about. So thank you, Roberta, for being out there.
You are so welcome, Maya. And I'm gonna do my own turkey trot this year. I'm gonna wear my shirt.
I love it.
Well, and I want to thank everyone tonight. Roberta, you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
And I think I really want to share with everyone that we have a long way to go to manage diabetes. And I think as a healthcare provider, we could do a lot more to instill and enable and empower our patients to take control of their health. And I was telling everyone, our group here, when I first met Roberta, she was joining DPP class, and she said she wanted to do it. And she wanted to take control of this with lifestyle. And I said I was worried about her because I was being a healthcare provider. But, you know, I think as a healthcare provider, we can believe in our patients. We can believe in their willingness to take control. And Roberta, what is so exciting for me is that so many people only have a negative experience with diabetes. They only know the kind of the sad part. And we need more people who are ambassadors who have taken control of their diabetes, especially if you can do it without medicine, but even if it's with medicine, and say, look, I can prevent diabetes, or I can live healthy with diabetes. You know, our group in SODAF, we talk about diabetes is not a death sentence, right? It's not. You can live a long, healthy life, but it requires an active engagement, and it requires a team. So thank you for showing everyone that that's possible.
You are so welcome, Dr. Shubrug.
Yes, thank you. And so I want to thank our team tonight. I also want to remind everyone that we do have an evaluation that we'd like you to fill out. I want to highlight that this is just one of many programs, as Shalaya mentioned earlier. So Wednesday night, we'll be talking about we're talking about primary and secondary prevention, and knowing that it's never too late to take action on chronic disease. And then Thursday, we'll be talking about mental health and chronic illness. These are really important topics. And again, we are so glad everyone's out tonight. thanks again for joining us tonight, and we hope that this inspires you to be well, and it looks like I'm going to let Maya close.
Yeah, I have one more thing I want to talk about. A group of our SODAF members are starting a support group. Our very first one, which is our very rough draft one, is going to be this Wednesday after Zoom into Wellness. It'll be at 6:15. Who's invited is anybody who's affected by diabetes, whether you have it yourself, you have a family member who has it, you're passionate about working with it, you just want to come and support other people as they tell their stories like Roberta did today. There's a link now, thank you, Gabriella, in the chat for you to go in there and you can sign up, and we'll send you more information about it. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Roberta.
Thank you. Bye-bye.